Heard that, recording in progress. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Britannica says hello. This is the review session for our final exam, which is December 1st through 3rd online. I appreciate those of you who've shown up, and we'll get going. And again, I'm a little slow. I've had this nagging cold, so I'm a little slow on all the grading, but I'm getting to it a bit at a time. So I should have that done by the end of the week, but it's been a long semester for everybody. Anyway, here is the reviews guide. Okay, final guide at midnight. Again, thank you for those of you who are showing up. Okay. Excuse the cat and the dog. They're getting into it as cats and dogs do. Anyway, status of media ethics at the beginning of the 20th century. That there was little or no media ethics at all. Large newspapers were in the era of yellow journalism. That the whole concept of ethics came in the 20th century. Adolph Ochs had to do at Chattanooga, founder of the Chattanooga Times, bought New York Times and used ethical media as a marketing tool. His motto was all the news that's fit to print. The problem is, what's fit? We don't know. We're still working on what's fit to print or broadcast or whatever. Why did media ethics evolve? Two reasons. Realization that big, powerful media might need to be controlled, and as a marketing tool to stand out from all the yellow journalism. Mostly the latter, mostly need to be controlled as a marketing tool. Ochs wanted it to be something different. Not that he was really all that community oriented, which he was, but it was about marketing. Strengths and weaknesses of codes and ethics. Strengths. Guidelines. Weakness. No enforcement. It's all up to you and the media outlet. So no one can tell you what's ethical or what's not. No one's going to enforce it. But a media ethics, code of ethics will tell you so give you some guidelines to help you make some decisions. Who decides and enforces media ethics? Ultimately, media practitioners. I mean, if you go too far, get too violent, no one's going to watch your channel, be it YouTube or on television. But you know, it's your decision. The government has no role. In things like violence, honesty, and diversity. Those are all ethical issues. Who invented radio? but Marconi put the practical radio together. You know, there's a lot of background, but mostly it was Marconi. Broadcasting, however, Lee DeForest and David Sarnoff used radio in a new way. Marconi saw it like the telegraph, point to point. And Sarnoff launched RCA, Radio Corporation of America, and NBC to make it happen. Who was Edward Howard Armstrong? Made AM radio practical and clear sounding, and he invented FM, real good sounding radio. David Sarnoff, he was Marconi's assistant, started RCA, Radio Corporation of America, RCA. Manufactured the radios. People wanted them. Then he started NBC to put programming on the radios he already built. How did the creation of RCA show? If you create a market, people might buy into it. Example, the iPhone. Who knew that you wanted the iPhone until you actually saw it? And the iPad, things like that. Radio started the same way. Sarnoff thought, if I make the radios first, people will have a radio and then they're going to want to have something to put on the radio. And he gave them NBC to give them the programming. If we have free speech, why was the FCC created? Because the broadcast band is a limited resource. Not everyone can be 101.2 on the FM dial. Not everybody can do that. So in order to qualify, the FCC issued licenses. And just like a driver's license infractions, too many fender benders, you can lose your license. And a fender bender in broadcast could be like dropping the F-bomb. Broadcasting's radio broadcasting, effect on other media, killed phonograph, gramophone, record sales, as well as live entertainment. Why pay money and make the effort to go out and see a show when you just turn on the tube? Advantage of the radio network that Sarnoff came up with, gave programming easily and cheaply. Before Sarnoff and NBC, every radio station had to have its own live bands, had to have its own live announcers. With NBC, you just turn on your hookup and your people are already there. Program genres, quiz shows, cop shows, dramas, sitcoms. All the stuff that you see on TV started on radio. Why did NBC not pursue FM if Armstrong already had it, was promoting it? Because Sarnoff was working on television. Didn't need to retool radio stations. He didn't want to start remake all his radio stations because he was making TV stations. So he tried to shut down. Sarnoff shuts down Armstrong. Now, the interesting thing is, of course, FM comes back. Hello? Someone in the background there? Okay. Why did they break up NBC? Because NBC was so, it was a, same thing in the movies. It was a monopoly. How did TV affect radio? Shows moved to TV, so radio turned to music. Rock and roll have, just beyond music, introduced African American performers to mainstream audience. Youth music, you had, you know, before then, everybody was listening to the same stuff, young and old. And rock and roll was there for the young people. It still informs, entertains, provides background, culture, news. It's always still there. Who invented television? Lots of different people. There were two versions, mechanical and electronic, in the 1920s. Who was Farnsworth? Invented and perfected electronic television we use today. You know, Baird invented the mechanical version in England, but it was Farnsworth who came up with the electronic system we generally use today. Coates, he started converting NBC stations to the TV. RCA manufactured. So he manufactured televisions so people would have something, would want them and have something to watch and need something like. Vladimir Zworykin, it's pronounced two different ways. He was scientist hired by Sarnoff, credited with making electronic television, but Farnsworth got the patent. Still, Sarnoff tries to erase Farnsworth from history. So often people, if you look up on in encyclopedias, a lot of people say Zworykin invented electronic television. It's not true. It was Farnsworth. Why did FCC freeze TV station licenses? To standardize technical and legal issues for licensing. Figure it out who's going to, how many lines on the screen are you going to have? NBC had fewer lines on the screen, not as good a picture as the Dumont network, but they had more money and their system won. Lot of different ideas, but ultimately it worked like radio. How did TV affect other media? Again, radio moved to music, and then phonograph record sales go up because it's on radio. Movies go into decline. People don't see movies anymore if you can turn on the TV. Sports, NFL and NBA. Hockey do not. So that's when the NFL took off. It's perfect for television. Yeah, Kennedy-Nixon debates. Kennedy had a blue suit on a brown background. Nixon had a brown suit on a brown background. Kennedy looked commanding. Nixon looked like Nixon. So yeah, it made a difference. And now politics, they all have to dress good and sound good and have good hair, shorter speeches. You don't get a lot of detail. You don't go into monetary policy on TV. How did TV news affect the Vietnam War? They saw everything, including bad things US troops did, turned America against the war. And they never did that again. Subsequent wars, limited. You don't see live pictures from the front in Afghanistan. How did cable TV become prominent? Ted Turner buys a spot on a satellite and starts TBS, beams TBS anywhere. But before that, you know, the cable can only go so far in little places, but with the satellite, you can bounce it to TV stations anywhere. MTV made culture more visual. Even music. It's not just music anymore. You had to have a look. Just ask Taylor Swift. How did more cable channels, less influence of the TV networks, different information. Not everyone watches the same things. You have different ideas. And we're have that today. Why did TV arise in the early 2000s? Reality TV, writers went on strike. Needed shows that didn't need scripts. So you got Survivor, The Bachelor, and The Apprentice. And we all know what happened with the guy from The Apprentice. No coincidence. Streaming services affected TV content. More channels, options. They're different. No, you know, we're all watching different stuff, so we all have different ideas. You know, who invented the internet? The US government. In order to have a communication network. So we set up the internet. It wasn't like invented by an entrepreneur who wanted to make money. So if it didn't make money, it's still hard to make money. Why don't we police or regulate the internet more heavily? Because unlike broadcasting, anybody can have, not everybody. So there's more, they don't police it as much. So yeah, a lot more freedom, but also a lot more freedom to be abusive. Why did internet entrepreneurs suffer business failures in 1998? Because the internet lots of investors interested in the internet, but they didn't make any money. Net neutrality, keeping all access to the internet open to everyone equally, abandoned in 2017. That it gives us all Disney all the time. You don't have to, Disney doesn't have to let other people be involved. What did Thomas Friedman mention when he said the world is flat? He meant we are all interconnected, even on the other side of the world. Yeah, I could call up my cousins in Australia or Russia or England, and it's like they're right there. They get the email immediately. Who invented propaganda? Various governments. Realized the power of media. Who invented the term? By Benito Mussolini. Just throwing that in, I eliminated that question from this test. What happened with the US government allowed unlimited media access? The US, and many turned against the war. What policies resulted? Limited access to wars. We call it pool reporting. Embedded reporters. They'll send you out with a group of soldiers or whatnot, but they're watched very closely. Okay, that's pretty much covers it. So if you have any questions, Any ideas? I will save this. I'll save this right now. And I will post it shortly along with the video that we're doing right now. Any other questions, folks? Well, I really appreciate you showing up, the 3 of you who did, 4 of you who did. That shows extra effort. It's greatly appreciated. And if you have any questions over the next couple of weeks, let me know. This goes live December 1st. And, you know, if you need anything, just let me know. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for this semester.